Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. And before I get started with the subject of today's video, a couple of little detail notes. I know in my last video I had said that the OSR Medieval Authentic Companion book was going to be out probably by now, and it still isn't out. And these are things that normally happen. It is probably part of it has to do with having changed publishers in what was a very mutually agreeable deal for all concerned. But also part of it has been some technical issues. But it looks like all that is getting sorted now. And so I really do think that probably within a very short time, we will have that book out. All right. And then after that book is out, we'll begin releasing more RPG Pundit Presents issues as well. So if you've been waiting for the book, you just have to wait a little bit longer, and chances are you'll finally get it. And second, I know I'd said last week that I might end up doing a live stream, and I didn't, and that was because on Sunday, instead there was a live stream of Inappropriate Characters where Venger ran his Chalt game, and I was in the live chat comments. So if you haven't watched that, go check it out. You can check out my part of it by looking at the live chat comments. I'm all over him. It's always fun to roast Venger while he's DMing. So anyways, that's what that gets us up to date, I guess, with what's going on right now. I will probably, again, can't promise it, but there's a fairly good chance, because I'm not having a game this Saturday, that I could do a live stream on Saturday. So that might be the next time. I'll send it. I'll try to make the live stream be announced beforehand. Though I'm not very good at these things. I don't do the computer stuff. The webs enter things very goodly, So we'll have to see how that goes. Today I wanted to talk about something that had happened. It actually came up a couple of weeks ago now on Twitter, but I didn't get around to it. You would think, I would think that almost everybody who games really is not interested in discrimination against anyone on the basis of, a people's race and, or a people's sexuality or anything like that. And yet there is apparently a group that is consistently dedicated to trying to exclude certain people based on the color of their skin or what their sexuality is. Those people are leftists. Those are the people who are currently trying to bring segregation into the hobby, and not bring it back, because there never used to be segregation. I've never seen any institutionalized type of segregation in the hobby. But now they're trying to bring it in. Why? Because of identity politics, of course. So on Twitter, a couple of weeks ago, you had a number of D&D SJW types who are trying to explain to someone who had run into a situation of a gaming group in a semi-public venue, declaring that this group was only for LGBT people and that you couldn't join if you weren't an LGBT person, trying to question, this was a guy who, from what I saw of his Twitter account, he was a fairly normal Twitter user and probably therefore left-leaning, right? Not a right-wing nut or anything like that. He asked, does this really make sense, guys? I totally get having a positive declaration in your gaming group announcement saying we are inclusive, we encourage diversity, we want people of color or people who are LGBT or women or whatever else to be able to feel safe in this table and stuff like that. But what is served, he asked very intelligently, by saying, no, we directly don't want straight people at this table, right? Or we don't want whatever at this table. How does that encourage how does that encourage the right sort of cohesion of the hobby, right? And of course, a bunch of leftists came at him with a bunch of reasons, and then a bunch of them came at me with a bunch of reasons when I pointed out that this guy was absolutely right. that in fact, this is a most obvious point, and now it's one thing, people gaming in their own houses, right? I'm not saying, that everybody has to be allowed to any gaming group, right? Because one of the arguments that they tried to use was to say, so you think that in your own house you should be forced to let in someone to game no matter what? No, well, first of all, I'm not talking about keeping people out on the basis of their personality, or keeping people out on the basis of their ideas or the actions that they take in the group or their known reputation in terms of actions that they've taken in other groups. So there's nothing, I'm not saying, no, you have to let in everybody who smells like cat pee and has a history of trying to fondle female gamers or something. No, obviously not. But there's a big difference, first of all, between that and saying we're not going to let any gamers of a certain skin color come into our gaming group, right? That's a totally different thing. But even there, I'm saying, look, if you're playing in your private house, then in theory, you can invite or not invite whoever the hell you want, right? Clearly. Now, if you happen to be a person that, if I find out, that you're having a gaming group in your house and you're a person that says, I don't want any black people coming to my game, or I don't want any white people coming to my game, then I'll know you're a racist and I won't want to go to your game. I won't want to game with you. Likewise, if you say, I don't want any Jewish people at my game, or if you say, I don't want any LGBT people at my game, I'll know that, you're a bigot and I don't want to have anything to do with you, right? That's my point of view. And so I'd have the freedom not to go to your house. But it's a totally different thing once we're talking about semi-public or public venues, right? If we're talking about gaming clubs in schools, we're talking about games being held at gaming stores or at gaming conventions or organized play. And what these people are advocating now is that there should be exclusive tables and maybe, exclusive events and things like that where they will get to tell people at the door, you don't get to come in if you are white. And of course that brings up the question of what is white. What if someone is 3/4 Caucasian and a quarter black? What if someone is a Latino like me, who is certainly white looking, right? But does that mean I as a Latino don't get in, but some other Latino that has slightly darker skin does get in? How does that work, right? What is your plan? But we've got people that on Twitter kept advocating that they should get to discriminate against straight people in terms of groups that are going to be only for LGBT people, and against white people on the basis of groups that should be only for people of color, right? And this is completely backwards, right? For starters, one of the first, there's many lame arguments that were given, then a couple of arguments that have to actually be addressed a bit better. But the first lame argument is, this is to encourage diversity. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. A group that specifically excludes certain races is less diverse than a group that includes all races, right? Inherently speaking, right? It's obvious that a group that says everyone is welcome is going to be the most inclusive of diversity. Right? Anything that says everybody except X, whatever number of groups X represents, is going to be less diverse than a group that says, no, we want everyone to game. Right? That's why the OSR is actually the most inclusive movement in gaming today, because we just want everyone to game. We don't care at all about anything about who you are except that you game. That's it. That's the condition to enter into the OSR. So This is what gaming should be like. It's largely what it was like in the old school era and through most of D&D's history until the left showed up and decided that they wanted to politicize gaming and so want to create these exclusive spaces, right? And then you get these couple of other arguments that just you have to respond to them, but when you look at them, you get how ridiculous they are, right? One is. And again, remember that we're talking, this is the question, is in what way is there any benefit to having a group that specifically excludes, say, non-LGBT people, rather than having groups that explicitly include LGBT people but also include everybody else, right? And so one of the answers that they gave as well, there are some people that are so traumatized, that they won't feel secure knowing that there's a straight person at the table, right? Or, in other cases, stuff like, that people won't feel comfortable knowing that there's a white person at the table or something like that, right? Like this argument, when you listen to it, well, you think, well, let me think about that for a second. But if you think about it for a second, you realize that it's unbelievably bigoted and racist, right? If there is such a person, let's say that there could be some person that has this profound, traumatically driven fear or nervousness or discomfort where they can't even be in the same table as someone of a certain skin color or someone of a certain sexuality, right? Now, if that's the case, if it's driven by trauma, you can't really hate that person because you know that they've had, some kind of traumatic event, but you also can't just, accommodate that person because we live in a plural and diverse society, right? So if someone were to sit down at the table and say, I was abused by a man, I'm a man, and I was abused by another man when I was a kid, right? And because of this, I'm deeply traumatized by everything to do with gay people, right? If they say that, let's say that if you believe their story, even though you might feel sympathy for them, you're not going to say, well, yeah, okay, so obviously we're not going to let gay people sit at this table. No, you can't do that, right? You can't do that, not just because of some question of political correctness, but because then you are starting to cater to these specific trauma groups rather than to an open and pluralistic society, to an open and diverse society, right? So likewise, if a person says, well, I was so abused by straight people that I can't sit at this table, it's the same thing, right? Someone who has been so traumatized that they literally can't sit at the same table as, say, a straight person or a black person or a Latino or a woman or whatever, those people shouldn't be gaming. They should be in an institution receiving therapy that they desperately need, right? They should literally not be allowed to be in normal society until such a time as they've gotten enough help that they can go out into normal society where these people are, these people that are triggering to them are, and not be thus triggered, right? That's what they need. They desperately need help, right? Now, if you're just saying, oh, I just don't like these people, then that takes on a whole other attitude. It's not about trauma. It's not about you feeling safe. It's just that you're a bigot, right? If you're just saying, well, I just don't want to sit near a gay person, or I just don't want to sit near a straight person, or I just don't want to sit near a black person, or I don't want to sit near a white person, I don't want to roll dice with them, I don't want to touch the same dice that they've touched, then you are, you're scum, right? You're bigoted scum, right? And there's no reason why we should accommodate you, right? And then, of course, you get this other kind of argument about, oh, well, the whole mainstream is yours. Well, no, gaming has never been that, right? Because gaming has never been a mainstream thing. Gaming has always been for marginalized people, and to begin with, right? The geeks and whatnot. And it's always been inclusive, right? So let's say even if you were right, even if in the past there might have been, like there never was, right? I never saw institutionally, I've seen groups that might have said, oh, no girls allowed or something like that. But I've never seen cons or gaming events or semi-public events or anything like that where people were told you can't come in unless you're a man or unless you're straight or unless you're white, right? Never. And so if you're, but let's say that was the case in the past. It wasn't. But even if it was, in what way do we resolve anything by turning it around and creating a situation where we restore the exact same segregation? You're arguing, oh, it was bad because in the past we were segregated, right? So our solution is in the present we're going to segregate, right? How does that fix it? That actually perpetuates the problem. The solution is end segregation, right? Don't divide people, right? And if the argument is, oh, well, there's been a history of a certain people causing imperialism or whatever, bringing us, civilization and running water and electricity and airplanes and things like that, right? Creating the modern world and then sharing it with that world. And therefore they're really evil and we should get to discriminate against them. Well, you're still being a bigot, right? There's no question about that, right? You're basically just blaming everybody. You're literally going against the essence of the philosophy of Martin Luther King, right? And I had some guys, there was some black gaming guys that, you know, I pointed this out to, right? You're literally saying, I'm going to judge this person by the color of their skin and not the content of their character, right? Instead of, as Dr. King wished, right, to get to the world where we can just judge people on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. So the people that want to discriminate are being part of the problem, not part of the solution. And it was very funny watching these guys because they were obviously desperately trying. First they said, oh, well, you don't know Dr. King, right? And of course, that's not true, right? I've read all kinds of stuff about him. I'm a historian. And so I didn't just show that quote, I showed a bunch of quotes, all of which made it very clear that King did not believe in a future world where there would be reverse segregation or, you know, continued segregation or the separation. But he literally wanted a world where the descendant of, like in that same dream speech, he says that he wants a world where the descendants of slaves and the descendants of slave owners could sit together in harmony, right? I'm paraphrasing just very slightly there, but that's basically what he said. And so, you know, there are these guys that are desperate to try to act as though they're still the legacy of Dr. King, while, you know, shitting all over everything he believed, right? And when confronted with this, you know, dude, just admit it. Just admit that you don't actually believe in that ideal. You do not believe in Dr. King's ideals if you want to create a segregated space at a gaming table, right? There's no argument you can make by which that does not stand true. You know, at a public gaming table saying, you know, no whites allowed is no different than a public gaming table saying no blacks allowed. It's the same thing, all right? And you know, they could admit it. I mean, there are black nationalists that think Dr. King was wrong, right? And that in fact, we don't belong to it. They're as horrible people as, say, the alt-right are. You know, like you're talking about like the black Israelites and stuff like that. The guys that are these insane activists that want to create separate lands for people, divide people on the basis of race and genetics, makes them basically the same as, you know, the alt-right. Makes them just like those guys, just, you know, different race, but the same ideas. So if you want to be a part of that group, if you want to think in that way, go right ahead. But then we're all going to call you scum, and that'll be what you are. So as for the rest of us want to be able to game with whoever we like, right? And we want to be able to game with people of all varieties, because we don't care. We don't care what color skin you have, what's between your legs, what you wish was between your legs, you know, what we don't care about your orientation. We don't care about any of that. Most of the time, we don't care if you have money or if you don't have money. We don't care if you're highly educated or lowly educated. We just care that you game. We just care that you want to come and play D&D. That's all you have to do. So you don't have to do anything else. And especially, you don't have to try to bring your identity politics into a hobby that is doing just fine without identity politics, you know. So that's everything for today. If you like this video, please share it everywhere. And please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll know when I do get around to doing a live stream. And if you want to support me, I mean, there is a Patreon and a PayPal button, and if you've bought all my products and still want to support me, I guess you can send me something there until I finally get out the new products. But if not, then I would strongly suggest you check out my products, my books like Lion and Dragon or Heirs of Indra, but also my RPG Pundit Presents PDF series. The link will be in the description below, which is a series of 100. Right now we're getting close to almost 100 PDFs, collection of different, very short PDFs, you know, ranging from anywhere between like 5 to 30 pages. So I guess some of them are not that short, but you know, it's a weekly series, and in every one you get one topic of something really interesting that you can use in your game, in your OSR or D&D game, or in some cases in your generic fantasy game, whatever one you play, with all kinds of different topics, right? There's all sorts of things. There's medieval city guides. There's a lot of medieval authentic stuff because of Lion and Dragon. There's also a lot of gonzo gaming stuff on there. you know, if you want to introduce, you know, spaceships and robots to your D&D game, then you're going to find stuff there that you can use. There's adventures of all sorts, setting locations, all sorts of interesting stuff. Lots of new magic systems based on real historical magic, which is one of my kind of areas. So take a look, and if you like something, purchase it, because that purchase, you know, it's going to get you something that you like, but it's also going to give me some money that encourages me to keep doing the good work that I do, and to keep coming on here and telling you guys about what's going on in the gaming world, and to keep fighting against the politicization of our gaming world. So that's basically it. Help me out that way, and if you can't though, or if you don't want to, then you can still help me out by sharing the video. And in fact, if you buy all of my Pundit Presents products, which thank you very much if you do, I know a couple of people who have, be sure to still share the video, because sharing the video is the best way to move things forward. We're now past 1,500 subscribers and growing, and the more subscribers we get, the better coverage we get, and the more that the word goes out there. So spread the word, share the truth. Thank you very much. Currently smoking Lorenzetti Volcano plus Blue Boar.